Tim, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I hear and see you.
Oh, you can see me too.
Yeah.
I can't see me.
Maybe it's because the share is on.
Okay. Oh, hi, Stephen.
Hey, how are you, council member?
Good. How are you?
Good.
All right. You guys ready to go?
Ready when you are.
All right. We'll go ahead and start. Okay. Due to concerns over exposure to the coronavirus, the city has implemented measures to protect our community, including the closing of council chambers and limiting public attendance to electronic means only. Members of the public may attend the meeting virtually through the Cisco WebEx event or view the meeting recording by visiting www.tempe.gov/clerk for more information. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order on May 28th, 2001. The meeting of Human Service and Community Safety Council Committee. Councilmember Garland is not present today. She is out of town doing some good work right now, but we'll proceed without her. Due to Councilmember Garland's absence, we'll approve the April 23rd meeting minutes at the June 25th meeting for approval. Right now, we'll go ahead and the committee welcomes a public comment. According to Arizona open meeting laws, the committee may only discuss matters listed on the agenda. Matters brought up by the public under a public appearance that are not listed on the agenda cannot be discussed by the committee. A 3-minute limit per person will be in effect. And at this point, do we have any public comment, Tim?
No, sir.
Okay. Seeing none. The next item on the agenda is committee session items, new items for considerations. Committee session items, current items updates. We're going to go ahead and welcome Deputy City Manager Stephen Methman, and he'll have a presentation on renaming city amenities. Stephen, go ahead.
Thank you, Councilmember Navarro. Here we go. Today, I'm hoping this will be more of a conversation than a presentation. So I wanted to share with the council committee members that there are two ways that we can pursue renaming city streets, buildings, parks, or neighborhoods. And one is the council reserves the right to name or rename any city facility at any time. They can do that a couple of different ways, council member. They can, the council committee or the council members can make recommendations and then have that discussed by the city council and a possible renamings taking place, or they can do a call for names. The other process that we have in place is where community members can make suggestions for naming or renaming city facilities. And that is called our naming policy. And we've had that in place for a number of years. And what that is the community members or organizations can make a recommendation to name something, whether it's a room in the Tempe Center for the Arts or our council chambers or a plaza. They can make those recommendations. They go to the city clerk. The city clerk then brings them forward after having consultation with a number of boards and commissions. After consultation, they'll bring those forward to the mayor and council for consideration. And we do that twice a year in January and in July. So that one's more of an open call for folks who want to rename things. There are a couple of unique characteristics of our facilities, and one is the changing or renaming or naming of existing city streets. And the way we typically will do that, because as you know, city streets go from one jurisdiction to the other, so we have to have consultations with other jurisdictions on those. But typically what will happen there is a department will bring those forward. They will schedule that renaming of that city street with the DRC. The DRC will have discussions and either vote on it, ask for more information, or even possibly deny it. And then those are brought forward to the city council those that are approved by the DRC are brought forward to the city council. We, in consultation with our folks in historic preservation and with the Tempe History Museum council member, would not recommend renaming historic buildings that have names already attached to them. So we have a number of those that are around the city and that could be commercial buildings or homes that were built by somebody, and we would not recommend bringing those forward for renaming at this point. So what we're looking for today, and we're happy to bring this back if you'd like when Councilmember Garland is available, but we're really looking for some dialogue on what process would you be interested in pursuing? Would it be the council and the council committee makes recommendations, or something where you'd like to do an open call, some PR around renaming particular city facilities? We will be bringing forward to the mayor and council in executive session some of those buildings and facilities that have names that we as staff think may want to be considered for renaming. That's a quick overview of where we are. So happy to take any questions.
No, that's great. In the past, just for clarity, and you mentioned it, that we've gone two directions with council, either makes the namings and proceeds through that process, or we go through a committee process, put it out to the community to have some input on that. Could there be a hybrid of both the council and the community both kind of weighing in on this?
Absolutely. The council can come up with any process they would like to see in renaming some of our city facilities. The reason we have a naming policy in place is so that our residents and our community organizations know how they go about that. So the council can at any time, under any condition, can come up with a new policy to say, let's follow this for these properties.
Got it. Okay, so I kind of like the discussion. I know we're going to be talking about this. And there's a little bit of part of me that wants to have a Councilmember Garland weigh in too on this, but I do kind of like the process of kind of a hybrid deal where the community is also involved. The council can also get the recommendations for going through the various different processes to get more input. I think that's vitally important instead of just doing something in a vacuum, so to speak. So I'm kind of leaning towards that way. I guess my curiosity is twofold. If we're going to session with this, with more of this discussion, I wonder if Councilmember Garland could weigh in on that. If not, we can bring this back to our next meeting in June.
So I do know, Councilmember, that there was some urgency to have the discussion started this month because some possible renaming are outside of our control, but within our city. So, for instance, there could be a renaming of a school.
Okay.
And so we wanted to start this conversation so that if there was discussions to be had with one of the school districts about renaming, that process could start.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, when we go ahead, I think my probably recommendation would be the hybrid deal with the council and the community weighing.
Yeah, and what we will likely do, council member, is once we're able to, once the city council is able to review those possible sites for renaming, then what we would do is based on what you're saying, a hybrid, we would start a call for names, and that could be from residents, from organizations, and could also be from council members since we're doing the hybrid.
Yeah. And I'm kind of curious if the council would agree to some sort of parameters, maybe of Tempe specific, residents, guidelines of substantial, you kind of go into the process of anybody could get named. I guess not to say that anybody's not worthy of probably being named of anything, but is there some parameters that we can put around this to kind of guide it so we're not all over the place?
Well, we have, so if we do a hybrid system, what we'll do is we'll follow some of what is called out in our naming policy, and that is for individuals who have connections to the city, who have performed heroic acts, that have some level of integration with our community, as opposed to a well-known person in Flagstaff, for instance, and the family wants to name something somewhere for them. We would suggest that we incorporate those parameters into this process, since it's a hybrid.
Okay, perfect. All right, I like that. Is there anything else? I think that if we do that, let's just do that and go forward with that, and we'll get the council's input also as we go forward.
Yeah, so what we'll do is I'll work with Tim to get something scheduled for e-session. All of the background report has already been prepared, so we're ready to go.
Okay, awesome. Sounds great. We'll proceed as we just discussed.
Okay, Tim, have I missed anything that you wanted covered?
No, sir.
All right, thank you all.
All right, perfect. All right, we now are going to move on. We're going to go ahead and welcome Naomi Farrell and Housing Manager Lavani Lamy, and they're going to talk about the ending of the eviction moratorium. So I'm going to go ahead, and Naomi and Lavon, if you are there. I don't know who's going to speak first.
Thank you, Councilmember Navarro. Naomi Farrell, Human Services Director. So today we are going to speak about the eviction moratorium that will be ending June 30th. As you said, Lavon Lamy, Housing Manager, is here to present as well. I did want to recognize we also have Jeffrey Katz from Community Legal Services available to answer any questions this afternoon, as well as Juliet Armstrong Starkey with Tempe Community Action Agency. As the Tempe Community Action Agency acts as our CAP office, and they are a provider of rental and utility assistance. So both of them are here today to answer any questions that may come up.
Yeah. Sounds good.
I believe Lavon will be sharing.
We're having a little bit of technical difficulty with the screen share, so if we could get just a second while we get this worked out between Tim and I.
Sounds good.
Lavon, I'm trying to get you enabled.
So while I try to get that up, I'll just go over an overview of what we'll be presenting today. We're going to provide some updates on some past action, the current state, and then some future assumptions.
Okay.
Lavon, I'll run the PowerPoint right now. That works.
All right, let me forward you the most current version so that you've got it. I'm sending it right now, Tim.
If you're okay with this, I'll go ahead and start talking about the past actions. And so in the past, we have also, knowing the importance of getting the information out to the community, we have set up a Get Help page, and that's currently is on our web page, and list all the needed resources for the community. We also had general fund recovery initiative funding go out to support the community in different areas of shelter, housing. We had also put out funds for their nonprofits, childcare subsidies, and some workforce. So for example, the childcare subsidies are really helpful to our families, as that subsidy covering childcare, then they were able to have funds to possibly pay their rental assistance. So that's an example how some of these community supports were very helpful to our families during this time of need.
Hey, no,
Yes.
stuff, is that kind of coincide with the pre-K? Or is
Yes, it was
okay.
pre-K and also our after-school programs. So really important, allowing also families to continue to work. And so very important funding that we were able to provide families. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Tim, we're on slide 3. There you go. All right, and then also the CARES Act, we saw $2 million of emergency rental and mortgage assistance come into our housing program. That funding will be expended at the end of June 30th. At this point, we've been able to help 237 households. And then Tempe Community Action Agency, as I've mentioned, our CAP office, the provider of our rental and utility assistance. Calendar 2020, they saw that they were able from July 1, 2020 to March of 30 of 2021, they were able to see 3,862 unduplicated calls come in for rental and utility assistance. Funding that had come in was at $4.1 million from rent and utility assistance. Also, this funding allowed them to hire additional staffing, which was very helpful to accommodate the increase in the need that we saw from the community. They're also reporting that up to June of this 30, they look to expend another $3.1 million. Next slide. So here we have COVID-19 vaccinations are widely available. We're looking at the state at 44% has they've received their 1 dose, and if I believe I've heard it was 52% for Tempe at this point. This is really important because as people get more confident, they're getting the vaccinations and we're opening up our businesses and people are going back to work. So we wanted to highlight that fact that the need of the vaccination serves a very important purpose to get that economy going again. The federal court stays, as we've said, that ends June 30th. We did see a large infusion of rental assistance come into Maricopa County. There's $303 million is from the American Rescue Plan funding. This is statewide emergency rental assistance. Specific to the county will see $136 million come in. And as you see, the county disperses their funds throughout the different cities. Tempe, because we do not have a population over 200,000, our funding comes directly from the county to Tempe Community Action Agency for CAP services to provide that rental and utility assistance. In addition, on May 19th, the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors have approved spending priorities for the first portion of the American Rescue Plan Act. The County Human Services Department, they'll be developing more detailed plans for the implementation to address the needs in the Maricopa County as soon as possible. Those funds are going to be dispersed through different priorities. There'll be $40 million going to housing, homelessness $12 million, rent and mortgage assistance, eviction prevention is at $20 million, seniors and persons with disabilities $15 million, workforce support $25 million, and domestic violence support and services at $15 million. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Levon to continue with the presentation.
Hey, Naomi, real quick, on those that are coming in, these are new, are they correct? Or are they additional, just sustainable money we've been requesting every year?
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit, so I didn't hear your total question.
I'm sorry. Is this new money this year, or is this a continuation of the same type of funding? Or
The money that's coming in on May 19th through the county, that's new monies coming in. Next slide. Thank you.
So with the American Rescue Plan and those funds being distributed to the states and the entitlement jurisdictions, part of what has come out recently is the Department of Treasury has put together a consolidated website for the American Rescue Plan assistance providers. And it is a horribly long URL to take folks to this site, but we will be updating the city sites to be able to direct folks. This provides all assistance available, not only statewide, but nationally as part of Treasury for the American Rescue Plan, the rental assistance funding that will be going out. Additionally, because Maricopa County is the distributor of the allocation for, Tempe among other jurisdictions, Maricopa County Human Services have set up their own portal, which we did do a screen share of for direct application for eligible households. A couple of things that are important to note is this is a little bit longer term funding. It can cover, depending on how the program is structured, it can cover 12 to 15 months, depending on the individual funding stream coming in for that emergency rental assistance. With the rescue plan, one of the key points that we would like to bring up is in some of the prior funding allocations, there were a little difficulty in getting funding out. So they Treasury and they HUD have streamlined this process, and they have also pointed out that households, regardless of their citizenship or immigration status and or their social security number or documentation, is not needed in order to apply for these funds. So that has been streamlined, I can say, with some of the prior assistance that has gone out. Some of the biggest barriers to getting assistance out is the wait for someone who doesn't have their birth certificate handy and one needs to be ordered, or they don't have a copy of their social security card handy, one needs to be ordered. So this definitely streamlines that process in order to be able to get funding out the door for the folks who need it the most. Tim, next slide. So as overall and with the current, we do have information about all rental assistance programs out on the city's website. We do, not only through the website, but through communications that would either come through residents directly reaching out to the city in various forms, or through the programs that may be through other city areas, directing residents to TCAA for this emergency funding, to the county if that was the most appropriate. TCAA has made their own multiple communications for the eviction prevention communications, so that we have the information that we and they have all available assistance spread as far and wide as possible to make sure we are picking up households. The city in and of itself, in efforts to address the loss of housing through COVID recovery initiatives, CARES Act, and other funding options, we have and did increase the emergency shelter options. So the non-congregate shelter was expanded up to 55 units. And we are currently pursuing options for the creation of permanent non-congregate shelter options. There was also an additional 6 units acquired to be utilized as emergency housing units. The emergency housing units are primarily utilized either by HOPE or Care 7 for individuals or families who would be at most vulnerable for COVID, and to get them immediately out of an unsafe situation and into a stable environment so that they could then be worked with to pursue more permanent long-term options. As part of addressing this as on a holistic measure, we have been increasing affordable housing as a city for quite a while. At this point, we have 58 units that are permanently affordable units that are at this time 100% leased with 0 in rehab. And of course, we are looking to acquire more of those units. Care 7 does provide and offer free financial navigation to assist individuals and families with resources related to financial navigation, rental assistance, and other areas. And then the Education, Family, and Community Services area offers free workforce development assistance. So folks who would need to be recareered or have a little bit of additional job training because the pandemic may have shut down their employer and they're looking for something in a different area or to utilize the jobs that are coming online now is definitely available. Tim, next slide. So in the future state, of course, with the funding coming down, TCAA would and will continue to receive rent and utility assistance as the CAP office through Maricopa County. We Human Services and the city are working with a few areas to track the eviction and foreclosure information that is coming out from the courts. We are analyzing this information that we receive monthly in order to, and working with the GIS group to identify hotspots for evictions and or foreclosures, really digest and understand all of the information, some type of backwards facing and then forwards facing projection, so that if we do know there are areas that have had elevated eviction levels or elevated foreclosure levels, we can make sure that we are proactively reaching out to that neighborhood, census tract, whatever it might be, to provide the information to assist them with mitigating their potential housing loss. We are also working towards enhancing the financial navigation and workforce development programs. They are continuing, and we are always looking at ways to bolster those and make them more robust so that they are providing the assistance needed by the individuals and families utilizing those services. Again, one of the things that we as a city are doing is the Envision Tempe, which is the Envision Center and Resiliency Hub. That building and the programming there is specifically focused on family self-sufficiency, workforce development, and longer-term sustainability of the community. So as we get these rolled out, we have our mind have better understanding and predictive abilities for eviction and foreclosure hotspots. We will be using that to proactively address as much of this as we can with the flyers and information for available rent and utility assistance. And the next slide is the completion of this presentation. And of course, staff is available for any questions that folks may have.
Levon and Naomi, this is actually outstanding. This is really something that I want to tell a lot of people about. For you guys being so engaged in our housing, in our community, and making sure that we're prepared for the impacts that we face on a daily level. We have a cadre of things that we can offer and continue to offer, and obviously the funding for those are extremely important as we go forth with the issues that are going to be in front of us, especially with homelessness. So with that said, it seems like we're very prepared for our future and how we're looking at the forecast. What else is there that is looming out there that probably needs to be addressed, or anything else? Is there anything else that we're missing that we need to maybe talk about or get approval on, besides more money?
Yeah, I can't think of anything that we need to get any approval on. Like you said, it's really staying, our foot toward that gas pedal to make sure we're getting the information out there and we're reaching the residents. And again, relying on our partners such as TCAA, Community Legal Services, to help us with our residents as the funding comes in to get the funding out.
So Naomi, with that being said, is there any way that we can sample how effective we are on providing that information? I know we might get a lot of word of mouth information. Are we surveying any of the individuals that are receiving these types of funding of challenges that are out there that might have taken them a longer time to find these resources? Anything like that?
Yeah, I'm going to see if Juliet can speak to that, because I know TCAA did do a recent survey of those that they were providing assistance to.
Cool.
I think she's still.
I just elevated her.
Okay, thank you. Juliet, did you hear the question?
If you're on mute, you might be on mute.
I am not on mute.
There.
Did you get me?
There, you got you now.
Oh, sorry about that. I don't know. So I am here. Thanks for having me, Naomi. Thank you for the support and all the good words. We're doing a lot of calls and seeing a lot of folks come in. Councilmember Navarro, I think your question is apropos in the sense that we are currently surveying our partners and making sure that they have what they need in terms of information.
Right.
I'd be happy to provide our survey results. We will have those finished by approximately June 18th, but
Awesome.
we're shooting for 500 surveys within our community action program.
Hey, that'd be awesome. And you know, to be honest with you, Tim, it'd be great to have Juliet present that. Just kind of go over it real quick. I don't know if we can do that some later date, but I think that's good information.
Councilmember, we'd have to do that at a later date.
Perfect. No, and Juliet, and to my whole entire question is things that I've seen just in the field, and it's always the communication. It's always the where do I go? It's always transportation. It's always what are my next steps? It's the process. So how, you know, that's the whole thing. I'm glad we're doing this. This is absolutely perfect because we have the resources, we have the people that are coordinating this and making sure we're on top of things, making sure that we find those monies out there. And then now it's just a matter of that communication piece of letting people know that this is available. How do you get and receive this, and how well we're communicating on getting the information out. So I think with what you're doing and what we can see in the future, I think this would be outstanding. I think it'd be good for the council to understand also.
Great, thank you.
Awesome, perfect. Anything else? With that silence, I'm going to tell you no. Okay, with that, I appreciate Naomi and Juliet and Levon. Thank you guys for the presentation. And once again, thank you for your hard work. Yeah, I mean, this is tremendous stuff. So we will move on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Next, we're going to talk with CARE 7, Deputy of Human Services, Paul Bentley will be on this, and along with CARE 7 Manager, Kristen Charlot. So if we could have either Paul or Kristen come on up.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Councilmember Navarro and team. The intention this afternoon is to provide an update of CARE 7 and its programs, following last month's conversation on specifically focusing on opioids and the great work that's being done with Tempe Fire Medical Rescue, the Police Department, and Impact. Was also felt it was appropriate to bring in CARE 7 to talk about the programs and services made available to both have an impact on prevention within our community, and also as a response and supports for our community members along the way from a social services perspective. So from that, I'm going to hand it over to our CARE 7 Human Services CARE 7 Manager, Chris Charlot, to speak on the topic.
Well, thank you, Paul. And thank you, Councilmember Navarro, for giving me the opportunity to discuss CARE 7. Paul's going to be in control of the slides for me. So the first slide, I think, is just a simple, very abbreviated organizational structure so that you can see that we really have grown from our initial mobile crisis unit to 7 distinct programs that address the needs of the community. And I think that these programs were added to our repertoire based on what we were seeing in the community. When we were responding to 911 calls, we were recognizing that people had more needs than just the crisis. So all of these programs were developed to respond to what we were seeing in the community. Next slide, Paul. So kind of that is funky, and I realize that now. But really, to the bread and butter, if you will, of CARE 7 is our mobile crisis unit. Our program has 24-hour a day, 7-day-a-week crisis response. People can get those units through calling 911, through police officers and firefighters asking for us, or by just calling our office and telling us that they have a problem, and we can dispatch ourselves out to those calls. So as you can see, I know it's a little funky there, but the types of calls that we respond to are the things, normal, quote unquote, normal things that people call 911 for, right? So we are just going to help them get through whatever is happening to them that day, letting the public safety personnel attend to law enforcement and medical needs, and we take care of all of the other things. So as I said, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have 2 units. One that tends to general calls, and then another unit that is specifically for crime calls. And then starting in July with some new funding, supplemental requests, we will start a unit dedicated to mental health calls only. So that will be a total of 3 units now covering the city of Tempe. Next slide, Paul. So Victim Services is our second oldest program. We've had Victim Services at the city of Tempe for well over 20 years, 23 years, 24 years now. And that is a very robust program now, 8 employees plus Sully, the wonder dog, who helps comfort people. But again, part of that mobile unit that responds to crime calls with Tempe PD is part of this program. And what we're trying to do is just engage with victims literally minutes after they've been victimized and help stabilize their situation so that they can get the help that they need, so that PD can get the information that they need, and so that we can start this journey with victims through the judicial process, through the court proceedings, if they choose. And so building that bond from those first minutes and carrying those people with us is very important. Our victim advocates are embedded in Tempe PD in the Special Victims Unit and also in the Domestic Violence Unit to work closely with detectives to make sure that victims are getting case information and that we are helping ensure that that the system is treating them well, because then we know that they will stay engaged and then cases will be successfully prosecuted. The newest part of this program will be the Family Advocacy Center that was also funded this year. And so we will co-locate all of the victim services with all of the Tempe PD detectives, and we will do everything in one building where people can get their medical exams in a safe and comfortable space. They can get their advocacy, they can have their interviews done, and they can get counseling all in one space. So that is a best practice. That is the gold standard. And now that we're going to have it in Tempe, makes all of us in Human Services very proud. Next slide, please. This is one of the units. Levon was earlier talking about that. Some of the COVID recovery funds were used to purchase units for emergency housing for victims, and we use them. They are beautiful. That's a picture of one of them. They are very, very nice, and they are very safe, and they have all the amenities that folks will need. They are used by all types of victims. So I won't get into the specifics of it, but they are able to use those units for up to 90 days to keep them safe and give them the opportunity to find out what is best for them long term. Should they go to a shelter? Can they get their own place? Do they need to go to family? It gives them time to make those decisions without feeling rushed. So they have been absolutely wonderful for people who just need a break for a minute to figure it out. Next slide, please. So this was the unit I was talking about that responds specifically to crime calls, and there is Sully. We actually don't let him drive, just to be clear. But we have gotten so much positive feedback about what Sully brings to the officers, to the victims, to the firefighters. I wish I had a dime for every time the firefighters came down to play with Sully, because I would be a rich woman. Sully brings a lot of comfort, and so we are looking. I haven't discussed this with my leadership yet, but there have been requests for us to expand our Comfort K9 program to the schools. That's awesome. And they are very on board with that. Yes, next slide, please. Case management and veteran services is something that when I was on the Care 7 van years ago, I was like, we need this so bad. We go and and engage with people during a crisis. And part of the reason why they need help stabilizing their crisis is because they don't have the skills or the resources to navigate the situations in their lives. And I used to come back from calls and say, I wish I could hand this to somebody who could, carry these people long term. And so then Naomi was very responsive to that. And we started off with veteran services. It has expanded to case management. These are two individuals who are both veterans themselves. They're licensed master's level social workers as well. They are amazing human beings that really will sit with somebody for hours if need be, have coffee with them, gain their trust, take them to doctor's appointments, take them to the VA. It is help them. Oh, it's really makes me cry if I talk about it too much, so I won't, but they will stay with people for years, and they move furniture. That picture that's on this slide is all of us, a family lost a loved one in Tempe, and they donated that entire house of furniture to us. And so we use that for our emergency units. So we have units where we can put veterans, we can put people who are having some significant maybe some mental health issues, and we need to keep them safe and where we can find them while we're working through the system to get them engaged with long-term services. So out of this program is where we will model our new mental health response team. These are very interrelated, and we need to identify the people in our community who are having mental health issues and not just get them connected, but support them weekly, daily if they need it, so that we don't have situations escalate to a crisis. That's where we get in trouble, right? If we can support them and meet their needs prior to a crisis, that's prevention. So that's very exciting. Next slide, please, Paul. Clinical counseling. We've had clinical counseling services for many years. It is really, we are looking right now to expand it. They are busy, as you can imagine. One of the counselors is dedicated to crime victims who've experienced acute trauma, and all of those are for free. All of those counseling sessions are for free. The other sessions that we provide are low cost sliding scale, and they're intended for people who don't have insurance. I think that there's an assumption that people either have insurance through their employer or they qualify for access, and it's simply not true. There are many people in the middle who don't qualify for access, can't afford insurance. Even if they can, it's catastrophic. It doesn't cover things like counseling. And quite frankly, a lot of people who, when faced with a $30 or $50 copay, they would rather, or they prioritize food for their family as opposed to counseling. So we want to make sure that we're keeping our services available for people in the community who can't afford it. The need for these services has far outpaced our ability to keep up with it. So we are all working together to identify how we can expand the program and make it accessible. We know that the most important folks to get this are our students, because that is the definition of early intervention. When they're identifying that they're living in a household with instability, we need to implement supports as soon as possible. Next slide, Paul. Crisis triage and intake has before been known as admin, but we have this done by a licensed social worker. She takes the incoming calls from everybody, code compliance, city manager's office, residents, people experiencing homelessness. She listens, she assesses, she gets them stabilized on the phone, and she connects them. If it's somebody who's experiencing chronic homelessness, she connects them directly with the HOPE team. We have a very close relationship with them, and we want people to get to the right place. So Andrea's job is to know all the resources, be able to hear what people aren't saying, if that makes sense to you. And through her lens as a social worker, identify what we're able to do. And then either dispatch our team or connect these people with the appropriate resource so that they get what they need. So she has a super important job, and we're looking to expand that program for the mental health response team and for counseling as well. These are people that need help on the phone as well before we can see them in person. Next slide, please, Paul. And then our youth specialist program. We talked about this many times. We have 7 in the high schools. We have 6 in the elementary school district. It has been more supportive and successful, I think, than we could have ever hoped for. And I think that the next steps really are to expand this program to more schools and then to engage it with counseling services. We really are intent on connecting all of our programs because they represent the journey, the initial crisis, the medium support, and the healing through counseling. So it's really important to connect all of these things. And I think that people also assume that these services exist in our schools, and they don't. They exist for the special ed population, but not for the general population. And we know now that our kids are suffering. The pandemic has really highlighted that, so we need to respond. Next slide, please, Paul. Trauma-informed care. We have a human, her name is Robin. She is dedicated to educating city staff, school staff, public safety personnel on what are adverse childhood experiences, how do they affect us, and how can we as service providers make sure that we have programming that meets the needs of these people who have experienced extreme trauma, and do it in the best way possible to keep them engaged. She just worked with Jeremy King at the city to develop 6 trainings for all city staff as part of his program for employee education. It is really, really important for people to understand. And we talked about this for public safety staff. When they respond to people who have overdosed on opioids, when they understand how that happened and why that happened, they can view those people as themselves, as they view themselves. This could be their child when we understand trauma. So she's very busy. She's highly sought after. She's working with the schools very, very closely to develop trauma trainings. Next slide, please. And then finally, our financial navigation, which is our newest program that was Octavia Harris through TCC applied for a grant. It was awarded through Cities for Financial Empowerment. Thea engages with people and gives them local and national resources that are outside of the box, if you will, about how to improve their credit score, consolidate their debt, find mortgage assistance, things that are a little bit different as opposed to, you know, the regular requests we get for utility and rental assistance. So she's helping people say, have you thought about this? If we can save you money over here, maybe that'll free up money for your rent or your mortgage, as Naomi was stating before. Thea has been identified out of the programs across the nation that have been funded by CFE. Tempe and Thea are top performers. She has been pegged to train others on how she does things. She's a very innovative thinker, and she finds really innovative ways to connect with people, to get the information out, like you were saying, Councilmember Navarro, about, great, we have all this stuff, now how do we let them know? So she thinks about things like that, and as a result of that success, we just found out day before yesterday, we've been awarded another $40,000 to expand the program for what will total almost another year. So we're very proud of what Thea is doing and how this ties into all the things in human services. And I think that is the last slide, Paul. And just, I think the main point was to just show and reiterate that we are trying to make all the connections to all the things. If somebody gets a hold of Care 7, but what they really need is hope, or they really need housing, or, you know, we can connect them to TCC or TCAA. We're just part of a system-wide approach to making sure that people are getting what they need. And that's why the substance abuse directory is housed at Care 7. Andrea walks people through that process. Do you have insurance? Do you not have insurance? You know, and we'll just stay with people until they don't need us anymore.
Kristen, this stuff, you know, I'm passionate about this stuff. It's totally my wheelhouse. What you guys do, and it correlates with the housing stuff that we're doing. Naomi, Paul, all you guys' stuff. This is just huge. I mean, the fact how we are working together, this is like so impressive. This is like my total vision of how these things could work all together. And it's almost like it's not Care 7 is, but it almost could be. Care 7 could be the the 911, so to speak, that, oh, I know Care 7 will get me to where I need to go, type of thing. That's what I foresee. All I can say is this presentation is wow. It's just wow in terms of what we're doing and how we're trying to achieve. And the fact that we're taking care of people at the lowest level is tremendous, because as I've probably stated before, I don't want to get into the higher level, which can cause some real issues on a variety of different levels. So we're trying to be forthright and access these people as soon as we can. And the more we get this communicated out there, the more we get this information out there, the better and more robust this is going to be. So this is going to be a great presentation for the council, hands down, just to kind of get another shot at what we're doing and how we're achieving our goals. But it's also going to correlate. Yeah, it's also going to correlate with the public safety entities, with PD and fire, and the support services around that. So with that said, I personally, and I'll probably voice this to the council if we have, as we go through this presentation, that I think you guys need to find the gaps that can support your programs staff-wise. You need to, you know, my vision is if identifying, you know, where those gaps are at, what support we need to kind of get this up as is, and then long term going forward, it's almost like, what would another unit do? How would you implement that other unit? How can it also to benefit on the mental health, homelessness, all that stuff, but with the PD and the fire issues and just the general calls that come in. So I really want to start advocating. This is going to be in the wheelhouse of the core values of Tempe. And we talk about the core values and with the public safety and public works and things like that, that we really need to put a lot of attention towards. This is all these things that we're talking about today are going to be correlating with everything that we do as a city. So that's going to be the big goal for me going forward for the rest of this term coming up. But I just want you guys to be prepared, as I'm going to be talking to the council about this stuff and how we need to start embracing the support staff around this, because I get it. I understand, you know, first off, you have counselors, you got to maintain those counselors, you're using grant funding. You can't be using grant funding all the time. We got to forecast, you know, the needs as we get into the future. How do we get off grant funding? But we got to get that 5-year forecast on those implementations of what is going to actually be needed to show the value of this program, and continue on with the data, continue on with what we're doing, what we're achieving, all that stuff, because that's going to show our case going forward on the improvements that we're doing within our community. So hands down, I love it, guys. I won't spend too much time. I know we got to get going on some other stuff, but thank you so much for this presentation.
Thank you for allowing it. I appreciate the time.
Yep, it was awesome. Thank you both. Thank you, Paul. With that said, we're going to move on. We're going to go ahead and welcome Pastor Jerome Parker from First Christian Church, talking about healthy givings at Tempe. And is Jerome? There we are. Perfect. You're on.
All right. Hello, everybody. My screen looks really blurry, or is that just me? Or can you guys even hear me?
We can.
No,
It's
we can
all
hear
blurry.
you. Yeah, we can hear you and we can see you. I think you probably didn't have one of those blur things on in your. And I wouldn't even know what to do or what to tell you to do, but I've seen that before.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you're good.
Yes, the virtual background thing. I'll try to fix that. So anyway, thank you all for the time today, and I don't want to take too much of your time, but I do appreciate the opportunity to share concerning the Healthy Giving Council.
Hey,
So
Jerome, this is Tim Gomez. Do you want to run the PowerPoint or do you want me to?
I can because I feel like I might get too talky and get off track on the slides.
Okay, I'm
So,
giving you privileges right now. You should be able to.
awesome.
Great.
All right. How's that look for everybody? All right.
Good.
All right. So I'm my name is Jerome Parker. Like Councilmember Navarro said, I am a member of the Healthy Giving Council, and I serve as a community pastor at First Christian Church. So I just wanted to take some time and just present to you guys what we're doing pretty much valley-wide. Some of you have heard this presentation, some of you have not. And so I'll do my best to bring you up to speed and to educate you on what's happening. And then also to let you all know that that you guys in Tempe have kind of embraced this this ideology, and you've been doing some really great things around homelessness there in your city. So it's really encouraging. So Healthy Giving Council, what is it? So we are a coalition of public and nonprofits, organizations, faith-based groups, and we're looking to provide healthy ways to give all year round. And just a quick flyover of the history of how this all came about. Back in 2017, there was some members of the Neighborhood Services Department in the city of Phoenix that kind of got together and were anticipating an influx of what we call street feeding and street giving in the downtown Phoenix area. And this was happening every single year. Some of those happenings were causing safety concerns. And what the coalition realized at that point, well, it wasn't a coalition at that point, but what everybody realized was that that the police were trying to communicate this messaging of, hey, don't street feed and street give. There's better ways to do this. There's more healthy alternatives, like donating time and resources to existing nonprofit organizations. But because they had the uniform and the badge, people pretty much turned a deaf ear. And so every Christmas and Thanksgiving season, around 12th Avenue and Madison in the downtown Phoenix area, there would be literally an influx of tonnage of trash collected by the city because of all this street feeding and street giving. And this was happening for at least, I believe, 10 to 12 years. So we decided that the message was correct, but the messengers needed to be revamped. And so because most groups that are out there street feeding and street giving, and you guys can attest to this in Tempe as well, were faith-based groups, I kind of got nominated to kind of be the face and the spokesperson for this effort. And so what we're trying to do is just re-educate people in their good nature and their good intentions. They're out there on a Saturday. They might have 100 sack lunches or 55 gallons of pozole or whatever the case, a trunk full of socks, and they want to do something good for those experiencing homelessness. And we just exist as the council to educate them on a more effective, a more sustainable and long-term way to do that. And so what healthy giving is a litany of things, one of which is working hand in hand and promoting collaborations, promoting partnerships, and really discouraging people from doing the one-off thing or the go rogue thing. And I'm gonna go and I'm gonna end homelessness in Maricopa County with 400 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and 200 juice boxes. That's not going to get it done. It takes a lot more than that. And so we want to work hand in hand. We want to collaborate with nonprofit organizations that are doing this work to help people promote their lives on a day in, day out basis. We also want to encourage people to donate their time and resources. So I always tell people, the same amount of time that it took you to make that sack lunch or to boil all that pozole or gather the socks and toothbrushes, you could take that same time and help the vision and the mission of an existing nonprofit organization who's able to serve and take your efforts as an individual and exponentially increase them. And at the end of the day, a lot of people get help that way. And so, that messaging has really impacted quite a few people that have gone from being street feeders and street givers to be more healthy givers and more collaborative. Then we realize healthy giving is something that has to be done all year long. Like I mentioned before, it's really interesting to see it's gotten a lot better over these last 4 years, but during the Christmas and Thanksgiving holidays, the city of Phoenix they would collect, about 15 tons more trash during that 1 month period than any other time of the year. So we want to educate people that, people experience homelessness all year round. And these nonprofit organizations, they work all year round trying to get people housing vouchers and job training and all the wraparound services that go along with that. Those things are happening all year. And so we're trying to challenge people to be a part of that process, to be a part of that movement beyond just Christmas and Thanksgiving. And that's good. But what would it look like if you took the challenge to do that all year? Also, we want people to think big picture, right? How far does a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on a Saturday afternoon get a person closer to that mark of ending their homelessness? Is there a bigger impact that we can make? What would it look like to reunite that person with their family, or maybe get them job training, and then they can support themselves and their dignity can be restored? What if we got them connected to health services or mental health services? So we want people to expand their thinking beyond just that Saturday morning for an hour and a half so that you can pat yourself on the back. But what would it really look like if we really impacted the lives of people in a grander sense? And then this is the piece that I really love is the human connection. Everybody, we're all designed as human beings to thrive in community. We absolutely need human touch and human connection, human communication. That's why one of the cruelest things that you can do to any person is to put them in solitary confinement is considered to be inhumane, because we just don't function well outside of a network and outside of community. And so what I find in my work in helping those individuals experiencing homelessness is that they absolutely cherish just being made to feel human, being seen, being heard, given an opportunity to express their stories or how they may feel about something. I've had tons of political conversations, like smart political conversations, on the street. And it's just amazing that these people are just like you and I. Their circumstances just happen to be different. And then the other thing that healthy giving is being considerate of safety. One of the things I briefly mentioned is that when people have a tendency to, like I said, they want to do the right thing, but they go about it on their own, in a rogue style. What happens is there's a lot of trash that accumulates in the neighborhood where they're doing the street feeding and street giving. And that trash attracts rodents and pigeons, and then those rodents and pigeons, they have to defecate. And then when you're feeding and giving on the street, then humans are also having to relieve themselves. And so what seemed like a good idea ends up not just becoming an eyesore because of trash, but also becomes a biohazard as well. And a few years ago, there was an outbreak of hepatitis A near the Human Services campus in downtown Phoenix. And so these are just some of the things that we don't always consider, when we're thinking about people experiencing homelessness. And that's okay. Like, people, they don't know what they don't know. And so we exist literally just to educate them and to get them to think, 2 or 3 thoughts beyond a sack lunch or, a bowl of pozole or, you know, a piece of bread or whatever the case may be. So like I mentioned, we consider the long-term impact for health for individuals and the environment in the community at large. We firmly believe that there's a way for everybody to win, those experiencing homelessness, those that are business owners in a particular community, those that are just, you know, residents of the community, you know, people that may be housed on the street right now, they impact all of us. So we really can't afford to take the approach of, you know, not in my backyard, get them to move on, because then now it's just going to be somebody else's problem. So what we want to do is just encourage folks to do their part. No one person or one entity or organization can do everything, but everybody can do their part to get people closer to ending their homelessness. And it has to be a holistic approach. And I think that, you know, that people deserve that. And there's a lot of satisfaction and gratification that comes in that if we embrace that task. So healthy giving is when we give and feed on the street, it diverts people from services. Literally, we've seen where you know, different churches or organizations or just, you know, people, they come in and give away all this food, literally hundreds of feet from a facility in the human services campus that serves 3 meals a day. And so we end up duplicating services and, you know, diverting them from the wraparound services that they really may need, because there's no incentive. When we street feed and street give, we de-incentivize folks from seeking the help that they really need. And then, like I mentioned, it creates a mess and just all those things. So we realize also that healthy giving is we're trying to address a complex regional issue, and that is going to be done through a long-term solution, because there's long-term needs. Like I said, homelessness doesn't happen in a vacuum. It doesn't happen. You know, nobody that I've ever talked to on the street is saying, well, I'm homeless on Fridays and Saturdays, but you know, the rest of the week, I got a pool in my backyard and everything's great. It's a big problem, and it has to be addressed with big solutions. And so, like I said, the education of this, and this is a message that anybody can take and just regurgitate it and communicate it. Talking about, you know, the short-lived relief. You know, what happens that hour when a person's hungry again, right? Are you going to come back from you know, your neighborhood across the valley and bring them another peanut butter and jelly sandwich? That's not sustainable. What about the unintended consequences and the impact on businesses, which consequently negatively impact the community as a whole? We have to be responsible and take a look at all those things. And like I said, you know, the issue of homelessness is something that, you know, a percentage of our population is experiencing, but it also it can affect everybody, right? And you know, us on this call, I venture to say that none of us are homeless, but it impacts us. We've taken time to hear this presentation. Just heard the previous presentation, the initiative in the city of Tempe that also addresses homelessness and trauma-informed care. Like, it impacts every single person in the community. And so I think that it's important for us to continuously ask the question, what can I do to be a part of the solution? And so if people ask that question, then, you know, we're happy to provide an answer. And so this is why healthy giving really matters. And so when people ask the question, so what do I do, right? You tell people, don't do this. You know, this is bad. Here's the impact of this negative choice. But we want to give them opportunities as well. So there's volunteer opportunities, there's donation opportunities. People can just go to the Healthy Giving website, which is givesmartaz.org, and they can They can link up with various nonprofit organizations to volunteer their time and donate goods as well. So also on the website, we have a toolkit where, and this is really effective in terms of collateral. So a lot of times we may see an individual panhandling or asking for money or food out on the street or whatever the case may be. This media toolkit serves as a tool to be able to put something in someone's hands. So there's information on here where they can go and get services that they need. There's information on here that tells people how to give in a more healthy and sustainable way. And all of these things are printable, they're duplicable. And so we're just trying to provide not just the educational message, but something tangible to put in people's hands so that they can also help us promote this messaging. So, yeah, just help us spread the word. And, if there's any questions that you have, you can definitely email us. You see the email there at givesmartaz@gmail.com. Follow us on our various social media platforms. And of course, I'm always available to help you navigate that conversation, whatever that may look like. So thank you again. I think I maximized my time. I do appreciate yours. Thank you.
Hey, Jerome, this has been outstanding. This is great. Thank you for the presentation, because you're spot on with how about going to help with homelessness, and just what you presented. I know staff probably knows this, 10, 15 years, I've worked at Station 3 in downtown Phoenix over there on 15th and Pierce, and obviously Cass is the go-to call. So I see it, experience it, talk to the individuals, know them very well. I see the impacts of things that do happen when they have events down there, but then the aftermath, so to speak. So this is really spot on. I think that the coordination for us as a city, also with our entities that help out, and I know that you are coordinating with some of those nonprofits and church groups and trying to get them on the same page. I think it's perfect, absolutely perfect, and we need to help you get that goal too, because that's a big help for the city. So I think that your information that has been presented here tonight is very timely. I think that we need to make sure that we're coordinating with you or helping others that want to coordinate to drive them towards your media, and how you explain how you can do it in the best way, in the best manner. I think that's very appropriate. So yes, this is absolutely great, the presentation for us today. Tim, if we can, I would like to do a little something at a council meeting, just as a message at the end to drive people to those resources, and whatever we can do to also get the information out on our channels. I think that we need to look into that. This would also coordinate with Care 7 and everything you heard today, in having that another tool in the toolbox, so to speak, in terms of guiding people to those resources that you presented and helping them out. So this is perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, Jerome. All righty, guys. If that is it on that, we're going to get ready to wrap things up. The presentations for the next Human Services and Council Committee meetings will be or Human Services update in downtown, are going to be the Human Service updates, downtown safety study on bollards, and the Tempe Fire Medical Rescue opioid update. That will be coming up on the, next next presentation. Okay, with that, I have no announcements at this time for anything additional, other than for everyone to have a happy and safe Memorial Weekend, and to make sure they're having some good fun with their family members if they can. I know I'll take a little trip out of town, hopefully get out the hot if we can, so we'll see what happens. Next meeting is going to be June 25th at 12 p.m. And I want to appreciate everybody that's been here at this meeting. Thank you for your time, and we are adjourned. So everyone have a great weekend. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.